Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we're going to look at your brain's early blueprint, exploring how developmental psychology explains the initial data capture of your mind. Then, we'll break down 5 distinct parenting styles. Third, we'll shift gears into endocrinology for the biology of toxic stress. After that, we'll explore the incredibly hopeful science of rewiring your internal map. And finally, we'll wrap up with some highly actionable therapeutic steps in the Parenting Impact Checklist. All right, Section 1, your brain's early blueprint. The capacity of early human development is just absolutely breathtaking. Your brain has the staggering ability to store 2.5 petabytes of information. To put that crazy number into perspective, that is enough storage space to hold 3 million hours of video. But here's the absolutely critical part. Out of all that data capacity, the most important information is recorded in early childhood. Imagine the messages you got from your caregivers as like little postcards flying directly into a highly receptive, glowing brain. They embed themselves deeply into your neural pathways, way before you even have the language to process them. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how those early postcards construct what psychologists call your internal map. And this isn't just a metaphor, folks. It's a profound subconscious framework formed entirely by those early interactions with your caregivers. It literally dictates how you view your own worth and how you perceive the intentions of others for up to the next 40 years of your life. It is literally the invisible navigation system for your adult reality. Moving right along to Section 2, 5 distinct parenting styles. So how exactly is that internal map drawn? Well, we're going to look at the clinical psychological categories that form your unique blueprint. And as we go through these, I want you to really think objectively about yourself, your own experiences, and the environments that shaped your personal map. The resulting adult traits are pretty eye-opening. First up, we have the responsive style. These parents offer warmth, frequent eye contact, and, consistent cuddles. This creates a safe base. The result, you get an optimistic, trusting adult who really thrives socially. Second is the unpredictable style. Here, attention is totally inconsistent. They're present one moment, distant the next. This makes children clingy, and as adults, they're often perceived as moody or unpredictable in their own relationships. Third is the punitive style. This caregiver is strict and reacts with anger when a child shows strong emotions. So to stay safe, the child suppresses vulnerability. That leads to an adult who deeply, deeply struggles to form emotional bonds. Fourth is the fear-based style. This is when the caregiver is actually the source of fear or abuse, creating a constant state of fear without resolution. This leaves the adult with a profoundly negative self-image, literally believing they are unworthy of love. And finally, the neglectful style. This often stems from external crises or illness, resulting in a persistent lack of stimulation. Without rich experiences during peak brain growth, these children can actually face lower IQ scores and severely delayed emotional development. Let's move to and see how this builds. Section 3, the biology of toxic stress. I want to slow our pacing down significantly here because we are pivoting from psychological theory to the very real, grave biological consequences that occur within the human body. This impact isn't just mental, it is intensely biological. When a child feels fundamentally unsafe or persistently ignored, their adrenal glands, which are sitting right on top of the kidneys, release this dark, heavy flood of adrenaline and cortisol into the bloodstream. It's an ancient survival mechanism, sure, but when it's triggered constantly in a child, it becomes incredibly damaging. This frequent and prolonged activation is what we define as toxic stress. If this chemical flood happens constantly, it doesn't just pass through the system. No, it acts exactly like a slow-acting poison on the developing architecture of the mind. It literally disrupts how the brain builds its foundational structures. And this brilliantly illustrates the long-term biological cascade. It starts with that adrenal chemical flood, but incredibly, that flood is so potent it can actually cause gene expression switching. It's turning certain genetic vulnerabilities on or off. The consequence of this? The individual faces a significantly increased risk of major physical ailments, things like heart disease and high blood pressure, decades later in adulthood. The body is literally keeping the score. All right, let's bring the energy back up for Section 4, rewiring your internal map. Because this story does not end with biological determinism. The most incredible feature of the human brain isn't just how it's built, it's how it can be rebuilt. It is all about agency and neuroplasticity. Look, if you view early trauma as a fixed defect, you remain trapped by your early blueprint. But by adopting a growth mindset, you unlock neuroplasticity. Your brain is a lot like a muscle that grows and adapts with training. When you view healing not as fixing a broken machine, but as an active process of skill building, you take the power completely back. This is exactly where targeted psychotherapies like cognitive behavioral therapy or dialectical behavior therapy come into play. They are specifically designed to help you intercept those old, inaccurate childhood postcards flying around in your brain and systematically replace them with new healthy beliefs. You are essentially taking a pen and redrawing your own internal map. And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, the Parenting Impact Checklist. Whether you're dealing with your own past or you're raising the next generation, here are some highly actionable therapeutic steps you can apply to your life right now. First, do an attachment audit. Pay close attention to how you react to stress. Do you desperately cling to others? Well, that's ambivalent. Do you hide? That's avoidant. Or do you freeze up entirely, which is disorganized? Second, try the safe haven exercise. Identify one safe person in your adult life and actively practice sharing just one vulnerability with them this week. Third, practice stress regulation. Just 15 minutes of daily meditation or quiet reflection can actively lower those cortisol levels and help grow new neurons. And fourth, if you're a parent or a leader, do a style shift. Foster resilience in children by praising their effort and their process rather than focusing on inherent fixed talent. So the crucial point is perfectly captured by the poet Samuel Beckett. Try again, fail better. Healing your internal map, becoming a better caregiver, it's not about perfection. Much like a tiny sprout pushing its way through cracked pavement. Healing is an active, resilient, and, sometimes pretty messy process. But the effort itself is exactly what reshapes the brain. I want to leave you all with a provocative question. Which of these 5 styles did you experience growing up, and how has it shaped the adult you are today? Active learning requires reflection, so please share your insights in the comments below. And if you believe in our mission of bringing these in-depth explainer lessons to students and focused learners everywhere, consider visiting our Patreon to support the show. Thanks so much for learning with us, and we'll see you next time.